This is Spinnaker 3, and that's right, you guessed it, we're taking Guardian into the Summer of Pain Mr. Sinister. Now, this Mr. Sinister has EMP modification, and he also has Polka Dot Power, and those are the two nodes that makes this very challenging. Because with EMP modification, every time he throws a special, he'll put a passive shock on you for every buff that you gain throughout the fight. And with Polka Dot Power, you aren't going to gain any power unless you put a damaging debuff on Mr. Sinister. And Mr. Sinister reflects damaging debuffs on you with his special one. So it means that you're not going to get much power from landing or receiving hits. But you notice with Guardian, when I perfect block, he gains 10% of a bar of power. And this power gain does not count as landing or receiving a hit, so it bypasses the Polka Dot Power node completely. And you notice that that power gain is going to help me fuel Guardian gaining power to a special 2, but you have to understand it's a very slow fuel. So most of the damage from this fight will come from Guardian's basic hits. Now you notice right here, the special 2 from Mr. Sinister puts a concussion on me. And then you suddenly see that Mr. Sinister gets a shock. Now the reason for that is because Guardian's abilities state that if his ability accuracy is lowered for 3 seconds or more, he will put a shock on the opponent. And this is big. This actually means that baiting the special 2 is more optimal than baiting the special 1. Yes, it does put a concussion on me, which means my perfect blocks, even though I perfect blocked the entire special attack, I didn't gain any power from those perfect blocks. But what did happen, as you'll see right here, is that a shock got placed on Mr. Sinister, which is a non-damaging debuff. So as long as I don't push Mr. Sinister to a special 1 when he has that shock, he can't reflect that shock back to me. So I'm going to get into some numbers and some math here, but essentially, Polka Dot Power gives you 12% of a bar of power every second you have a every second you have a damaging debuff on the opponent. So Mr. Sinister's concussion lasts for 6 seconds. Now that means that I will have 3 seconds of shock going on Mr. Sinister. So you notice right as the concussion reaches the halfway point, the shock gets placed on Mr. Sinister. That 3 seconds of the damaging debuff results in 12% of a bar of power every second, which means 36% of a bar of power is being gained just from that one special 2 rotation alone. That far outweighs perfect blocking the special 1, where I only get 10% of a bar of power, because this is 36. 36 is just way more optimal than 10% of a bar of power. And so I'm obviously, since I do have Dex on myself, I'm trying to avoid Dexing as much as I can because Guardian's great for this node, right? He has an insane amount of energy resistance. But it is only energy resistance. It's not full immunity to shock. So that means that Guardian is still going to be taking a significant amount of damage throughout this fight. So it's important that I just take steps to mitigate it. Now, right here, you see I go for a heavy attack and then I launch my special 2. And the special 2 does a decent amount of damage. I mean, with better crit RNG would have been better. But the reason I threw that heavy attack is because throwing a heavy attack consumes 1 force field charge to give myself an extra armor up buff. And you know that in this fight, that armor up buff is crucial for avoiding the damage from EMP modification. So that's why you notice that I just throw my heavy before, even though I'm sacrificing a smidge of damage because of that extra force field charge, I'm still able to deal out the special 2 damage and keep an armor up buff on myself. So I don't have to give up that utility, which is very important. So you notice that right here, again, I'm getting that 36% of a bar of power gained from that shock, which is just going to speed up this fight a lot more. I'm trying to go for 4-hit combos and then back off. So that way he gets more inclined to throw his specials. If you've played the game, you probably know that like if you throw a 4-hit combo and back off, you have a less chance of triggering decks on the backing away from the special attack. So that's why you notice that I'm able to sometimes dodge out of Mr. Sinister's L1 without triggering Dex. Now, you will see that this is a fairly slow fight. I mean, I'm what, 180 hits in, and Mr. Sinister isn't even halfway down. I can assure you that if I were using the recoil tree masteries, or if I had precision or cruelty masteries on, this fight would definitely go by a lot faster. But this is just a testament to the survivability of Guardian in this fight. My Guardian is a Sig 200. I mean, yes, that is definitely improving his survivability, but ultimately, this is a rank 5 with an absolutely garbage mastery setup. And I'm still able to get through this fight pretty safely because another thing that's worth noting is that when I push Mr. Sinister to a special 2, that concussion on me is giving me free willpower healing to help balance out EMP modification. So you notice that I'm not really taking as much damage as I would be if I kept baiting special ones out. You see, the one shock on me is doing 44 damage per tick, but the willpower healing is doing 75 healing per tick. So that balances out to me getting a net heal, and that's why I'm able to have so much survivability in this fight. You notice I'm back at a special 2. So what I want to do is I want to throw this heavy, get the armor up buff. I want to wait until the timer resets and I get 4 force field charges, and then I throw off the special 2. Again, not the biggest special 2 in the world. I mean, most people are used to seeing the flashy Canadian red numbers with Guardian. Those are not the ones you're going to be seeing in this fight. You're going to be seeing just solid, consistent damage. And in a fight like this, yes, it's long, but it's a Summer of Pain fight, right? This is supposed to be very challenging content. So even though this fight takes about 10 minutes, it's 10 minutes that goes by very safely and very smoothly without having to worry about that EMP modification damage. And the nice thing about Guardian in this fight, too, is I mentioned this earlier, but he does not crit. Guardian does not crit against Mr. Sinister, which means Mr. Sinister will not heal back any of Guardian's hits with his regen. It's almost like I'm disabling that whole entire regen ability completely. And that means that this fight does go by faster than the likes of any other champion who has to crit and then has to out damage that regeneration as well. So champions like Guardian or Guillotine 2099 are going to be a lot better in this fight just because they don't have to worry about that regeneration and having to out damage it. So yeah, this is going to be a long fight, but I can imagine that using just any random shock immune champion would be even longer. Right there, you notice I'm getting the timing on that special 2. It's actually one of my favorite special 2s to get the perfect block on because Mr. Sinister's animations make it just so easy. One thing I like to say is that the timing for the perfect block is similar to the timing for the dex. So you notice that when I would dex, I just perfect block for the special 1. And that also applies to the special 2, which you should see right now. So with the special 2, what I want to do is wait for his arms to reach out forward. And as soon as they do, I get the perfect block. And that's the reason I like Mr. Sinister's because he has a sort of tell. In card games, if a person has a tell, they're sort of revealing their moves to you. For Mr. Sinister's special 2, his tell is when he goes back, you know he's going to throw his arms out forward, and that timing is so safe to perfect block on. And that means I'm not triggering dex, so I'm not taking any extra EMP modification damage from triggering that dexterity buff, and it's just going by pretty smoothly. Here, same thing, you saw me throw that special 2, and the fight is going very smoothly. I know that's something I really like to say, but it truly is. Now, going back to the actual fight itself, you can see that Mr. Sinister has about 20% health remaining. And you notice I'm still at 50%. I'm winning this health game. And like I said, that concussion is doing wonders for my survivability in this fight. Not to mention every block with Guardian, because my Guardian is max Sig, is a perfect block. I mean, the ability to perfect block on just any regular parry is so nice for reducing the block damage because this Sinister has like what 19k attack values. The Summer of Pain is just throwing very high attack values at us. And so it's very nice to be able to come out of this fight this far. Now, as I get down to Mr. Sinister to about 10%, I'm at 367 hits. I've been in this fight for a very long time. This was my first time actually taking this fight even. That just shows you how easy it is to do this fight with Guardian. But this was my first time taking this fight with Guardian, so I did not want to have to do it again because it's a pretty long fight. You don't want to have to sit through the same thing again just because you messed up right at the end. I'm trying to go as revivalist as possible because I am free to play as well. So with all of those factors combined, I just decided that the special 2, even though I'm so comfortable with the special 2 decks, it is definitely less safer than going for the special 1 just because the special 1 is so much simpler to dex out of. So I decided that just to play it safe, I'm going to just bait out these special ones. I'm going to use my dexterity to make him more willing to throw his specials, and that's going to result in a little bit of shock damage. But I have enough health to do it. He's at 2%. I'm fully confident that I can get this done. You notice sometimes I get the double perfect block on the special one, which is very nice to get. That way I don't even have to trigger Dex because my goal in this fight is to do it as cheaply as possible. So I'm not trying to change up my masteries either to try and make this an easier fight. And so I want to get one special one dex and block, and that way I can throw off my own special two. Because what more of a fitting way to end a fight than with a special two from Guardian, his most signature move, if you ask me. So I'm going to throw this heavy one more time, just play it safe, don't want to get ticked down right at the end. And then I throw my special two, and that is the end of the fight. So it was pretty long, but honestly, it was pretty safe, and I definitely recommend this option to anyone. But the caveat is that you need to have a high Sig Guardian just because that energy resistance is what's making you tanky in this fight. So if you enjoyed this video, please let me know. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, whatever, you know the deal, and I'll catch you later.